III. Today we'll decide if King George III is guilty of unfairly punishing the American colonies after the Boston Tea Party.
Here's the backstory. In 1773, the British government taxed tea to help pay for the French and Indian War. This made colonists angry because they didn't have a say in this decision. To protest, colonists dumped 342 chests of British tea into the Boston Harbor, which was worth over $1 million today.
King George III was furious. He punished the colonies with the Intolerable Act, including closing Boston Harbor and forcing colonists to house British soldiers in their homes. Was it fair? That's for you, the jury, to decide.
Order in the court. We are here to determine if King George III is guilty of unfairly punishing the colonies. Prosecutor, you may call your first witness.
I call Martha Simmons of the Daughters of Liberty.
The Daughters of Liberty were women who supported the patriot cause. They protested British taxes by making their own goods and encouraging boycotts.
I am Martha Simmons. We are tired of being taxed without a voice. The Tea Act was the last straw. It wasn't just about the tea. It was about freedom.
Martha, can you explain why you and the others supported the Boston Tea Party?
The Tea Act forced us to buy tea from one company. It wasn't fair, so we dumped it into the Boston Harbor to send a message.
And what happened next?
King George shut down the harbor, ruining our economy. People couldn't work, trade, or feed their families. It hurt everyone, even those who didn't dump the tea.
Miss Sims, let me ask you this. Wasn't the tea actually cheaper under the Tea Act?
Cheaper, sure, but we didn't care about the cheap tea. We cared about our rights.
So you're saying it's okay to destroy one property worth over $1 million today?
Sometimes you have to stand up for what's right. The king punished us for speaking out. Thank you, Martha. Next witness.
I call Samuel Baker from the Sons of Liberty. The Sons of Liberty were a group of men who protested British taxes and organized events like the Boston Tea Party.
I'm Samuel Baker. You might say we made a splash with the Boston Tea Party.
Why did you participate in the Boston Tea Party?
Because taxation without representation is wrong. We didn't vote for these taxes, yet we had to pay for them. That's not freedom, that's tyranny.
Mr. Baker, do you think dumping tea into the harbor was responsible?
Responsible? Maybe not. Effective? Definitely.
You destroyed property that didn't belong to you. Shouldn't you have protested peacefully?
We tried. Boycotts didn't work. The king wouldn't listen to us until we hit him where it hurt, in his wallet.
Thank you, Mr. Baker.
I call Sarah Green a loyalist.
Loyalists supported King George III and believed the British government was helping the colonies.
I am Sarah Green. I believe that the king was protecting us. Those taxes paid for British soldiers to keep us safe from enemies.
And how did the Intolerable Acts affect you?
They were necessary. The Boston Tea Party was a crime. Someone had to pay for that tea.
Miss Green, how did the Quartering Act affect colonists?
Yes, some families had to have soldiers, but they were there to protect us.
Protect you or spy on you?
Protect us. The king was a tyrant. He was doing his duty.
Thank you, Miss Green.
I call John Carter a patriot. Patriots were colonists who opposed British rule and wanted independence from England. I'm John Carter, and I proudly stand with the Patriots. King George III treated us like disobedient children instead of equals. John, how did the Intolerable Acts impact your daily life?
The Boston Harbor closure destroyed business. Farmers couldn't sell crops, merchants couldn't trade, and families went hungry.
And what about the Quartering Act?
It was outrageous. My cousin had British soldiers living in his home, eating his food and bossing his family around. That's not protection, that's invasion.
Mr. Carter, didn't the Boston Tea Party create this mess? If you hadn't destroyed the tea, none of this would have happened.
We tried peaceful protest. The king ignored us. The Tea Party was our only option to make our voices heard.
So you think breaking the law is the right way to solve problems?
When the law is unfair, yes. We were being attacked without representation. That's not justice.
Thank you, Mr. Carter. Next witness.
I call John Davis a neutralist. Neutralists were colonists who didn't take sides. They wanted to stay out of the conflict and live peacefully.
I'm John Davis, and I just want peace. I don't agree with the taxes, but I also don't support destroying property or fighting with soldiers. John, how did the conflict between the Patriots and the Loyalists affect you and your family? We were caught in the middle. The harbor closure hurt my father's fishing business, but the Patriots threatened us because we didn't join their protests. So would you say both sides made life harder for you? Yes. All I wanted was for the fighting to stop.
John, you said the taxes were unfair. Do you think the colonists had the right to protest?
Yes, but I wish they had found a way to protest without violence. The Boston Tea Party just made things worse for everyone.
And how do you feel about the Quartering Act?
It was horrible. No one should have strangers living in their homes, eating their food, and making them feel unsafe.
Thank you, John.
Thank you, Mr. Davis. Order in the court. King George III will now be examined. Your Majesty, please explain your actions.
Your Majesty, after the Boston Tea Party, you punished all of Boston by closing the harbor and forcing people to house soldiers. Why did you do this?
I believe those actions were necessary to keep order. The Boston Tea Party was an attack on the British government. I had to show what the king's law must be followed, or there to be serious consequences.
But Your Majesty, you punished all of you punished everyone in Boston, even people who didn't take part in the Tea Party. Why did you do this?
I didn't want to hurt people, but I needed to teach them a lesson. The colonists were becoming too rebellious, and I had to stop it before it got worse.
But didn't you realize your punishment might make the colonists even angrier? It could push them towards rebellion, not stop it.
I see how that my actions caused more trouble, but at the time I thought it was the only way to keep the empire together.
Your Majesty was only trying to protect the kingdom. He never wanted to hurt anyone. The king had to make difficult decisions for the good of everyone.
Thank you, King George, for your testimony. The court will now consider the evidence.
Let's review.
The colonists protested taxes because they had no say in British decisions.
The Boston Tea Party sent a strong message, but it destroyed tea worth over $1 million today.
The Intolerable Act punished all of Boston, affecting even those who were involved.
Loyalists believed that the taxes and British soldiers were necessary to protect the colonies.
Patriots felt the punishment was harsh, especially the Quartering Act.
Neutralists simply wanted peace, but suffered under the harsh rules.
Ladies and gentlemen of the jury, that's you, our audience. It is now your duty to decide. Is King George III guilty of unfairly punishing the colonies?
Whether you think the king was guilty or innocent, one thing is clear. These events brought the colonies to closer to revolution and independence.
Thank you for attending the trial of King George III. You may begin your deliberation.